All right, we are ready to get started. First roll call, we have 4 out of the 5 of us here with Julie absent tonight. I don't have any requests to change anything on the agenda, so do we have a motion to adopt the agenda?
I'll make a motion to adopt the agenda.
All right, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second. Sorry, you got me right as I took a carrot.
Heidi, second. All in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? No, so that passes 401. There are no members of the public here to speak on closed session items, so we will adjourn to closed session. Let us know when the recording's off. Okay, we are ready to get going. Welcome to the May 25th, 2023 regular board meeting for the Roseville Joint Union High School District. I'll ask you to all please stand and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Reporting out from closed session, the board has accepted a settlement agreement and voluntary resignation in lieu of dismissal of a permanent classified employee from their position in the district. Announcement of meeting protocols. As you all know, we enjoy having the public here with us. You'll have an opportunity to address the board at a couple of different times. Keep in mind that we request civility and the use of courteous language. We do not condone the use of profanity, vulgar language, gestures, or any other inappropriate behavior including personal attacks or threats directed towards any meeting participant and/or district employee. There'll be an opportunity to speak to board members both at open and public comment, and that's for any items that are not on the agenda. You'll also have a time to speak to us for items on the agenda when we hear those individual items. If there are less than 10 persons wishing to speak, you'll have 3 minutes to address the board. If there are 10 or more, you'll have 90 seconds. If you have a complaint about a specific employee or employees of the district, those complaints should be made to that employee's immediate supervisor or the school site principal as outlined in our board policy and administrative regulations. We have these little forms to fill out if you'd like to fill one out to speak. And a reminder that our meetings are always audio, video recorded, and will be archived. We're going to get into our agenda. Our first item is a presentation, item 4.1 on our LCAP presentation.
Thank you, Board President, Board, Superintendent. It is my pleasure to present an overview of our LCAP presentation. And if we could go into the PowerPoint versus, there we go, thank you. This will be a team presentation, and it serves to give an overview of the process and a little bit of the content that we see in the multi-page document. And this is in anticipation of the hearing that we have a little bit later on the agenda, where we'll be taking public comments specifically related to our draft plan. So our draft plan has been posted since Friday on the website, is also attached for reference, and is not the final plan. We'll be gathering tonight's feedback. We've gathered other feedback, and we'll be bringing that back to you June 8th. So the process that we've used, we have an LCAP advisory group. We'll talk about the timeline, but every time we meet, we ground the committee in who are we as a district and why do we exist. And that's guided by the vision statement that the board put together. It's guided by our mission statement to ignite, inspire, and prepare all students for life after high school. It's guided by our 4 LCAP goals. And again, this is a reminder, we're going into year 3 of a 3-year plan. So we'll be talking about that because next year is very important. And what we'll be looking to you as a board for is guidance on if any of these are changing, right? So we have a recently approved vision statement, which is very helpful. Will the mission statement change in any way? If so, that would be really helpful as a guide to grounding the work as we write a new 3-year plan. And will our goals change? So does the board have specific goals? We work with the community to prioritize as well. But right now, we're working under the 3-year plan, and these are the goals that have been set. So they don't usually change within a 3-year plan. It's a little bit complicated. We're guided by the county office in what we can and cannot change within the 3 years. But when we write a new 3-year plan, it's open season for whatever we want to do and to change. So next year is very strategic in that way. So what we've done this year is we continue to engage all of our stakeholders and community partners, and you can see a little bit about that. And so the process, we do that throughout the year, including the California Healthy Kids Survey that our students take in 9th and 11th grades, the survey to all staff, families, and students that happens in January, We held student forums at all of the schools in January and February, and tonight's public hearing culminated that entire engagement process that's been spanning the course of our academic year. So in addition to these opportunities for all, we did have LCAP events in each school this spring, where the schools engaged their stakeholders as well. And we have an LCAP advisory committee, which met 5 times this year, October, January, February, March, and April. You can see some of the topics that we looked at. We went deep into the data. So we didn't have time to do the each of those meetings for 2 hours. We don't have time to replicate 10 hours worth of the deep dive that we've done over the course of the year. So we have some information for you tonight, and I'm happy to answer the questions that you may have. But I'd like to bring up the real star of the process, Ms. Judy Fisher, as executive director, who has really shepherded this through, helped coordinate the details, and point with our students on the student forums. So I'd like to bring her up to introduce the student forums. I will come back to that.
Thank you. Thank you. And so it was my pleasure to work with our student leaders that attended the LCAP advisory committees. And so at each of their sites on these dates, they were able to lead their peers in their own student forum in regards to the LCAP. So the process that we used was a gallery walk because we were all in person this time. And so there were about 50 to 60 different students that represented the underrepresented groups, as well as your other student leaders from student government or athletics or band, VAPA. We had a variety of students at the forum. And what they were to do in this gallery walk is they were split up into groups, and then there were 7 questions right here that they would answer. And so within their little small random groups, they'd go and answer all 7 questions, and they'd give feedback. They could say anything they wanted. They had to keep it clean, but they could answer any way they wanted. Whoops. Okay. Then, once everyone had an opportunity to put down their feedback, each student was given 8 dots. And just like with the adults, they could go vote with their dots. And, we asked them to think about what's going to benefit their school, their student populations, what do they see as a need. And so with that, they went and they spent their dots. And then now I would like to invite the lovely Kate Benevento up here. She was one of our student leaders to share out some of the district-wide themes that we saw.
Alrighty. Thank you. Oh, God, this is interesting. This is on, right? Okay. So our first question was, what supports on campus have been the most helpful for students? And this kind of varies from site to site, but overall we had a very general consensus that having kind of those support systems that range from teachers to wellness staff to coaches and so on, and having that person that kind of sees you as a student and as a person really was helpful. And then we also kind of had more niche communities where students kind of had those smaller hubs where they can talk to certain people, whether that be tutoring or athletics or ELD programs and so on. And that kind of really allowed students to talk to people and also socialize within those groups to get the supports and help that they needed. How do I, this one? Okay. Okay, next question is, what works in building a relationship with your teachers? Kind of had a very general thing that is mutual respect is number 1, where both the teacher and the student respects one another. And then also the teacher kind of sees the student not just as a student, but as a person, and recognizes that there is much more than just the work they do. And kind of recognizing that, if they aren't turning their work on time, there's a root issue as to why that's happening. And instead of saying just, oh, get your work done, it's okay. Why is this work done? What can you do to kind of help accommodate that? And then we also have a positive and inclusive environment where students feel an incentive to kind of reach out to their teachers and talk about things and also ask questions, whether that be personal or education related. And then, having that positive attitude in those environments where students feel comfortable, kind of that hospitable approach is really helpful. And then the next question is, what is your teacher? Just personally speaking, it's really, really helpful when teachers kind of say, okay, this is the best way to contact me, whether that be email, whether that be text message, whether that be, Canvas inbox. There's so many different varieties, but establishing that teacher will be like, okay, I can definitely see this when you reach out is really helpful for me. But yeah, just overall, like, communication, email, text, whatnot is really nice. And it's also nice when teachers establish the time when students can go and talk to the teachers if they need, more communication than just email. Um, so it's not very, I guess, overcrowded. Students trying to talk to their teachers, and there's like 30 other students waiting. And then we have, if you could change anything about Blake High School, what would you change and why? A lot of students said more parking and muffins. Oh my god. I don't know what it is about the muffins. I've never had one, but they're like carts. But parking, the variety is really what students really like. And then also safer environments for LGBTQ plus students. I feel that when students don't feel safe and that impedes on the learning environment, that's kind of where there's a line that needs to be drawn. Students have not been able to get the work done that they need to be doing. Um, in bathrooms in other areas, the school is a very big thing. Just across the district, student site counseling and such, we've been talking about ways in which we can combat that, but I think it's a bit different depending on the site. But it's very bathroom and there's a group of people and it's very awkward to go to the bathroom. Um, okay, next is what improvements can the wellness center on your campus make to help your students? Um, I've attended a lot of recap meetings prior to this, so I got to see a lot more in-depth conversation regarding this. But more communication about what is happening and what is going on and what resources the wellness center actually offers is really helpful because students could be struggling with XYZ and not knowing that the wellness center has this program to help them. So I feel like communication actually getting it out there that they have these programs, these tools that students can utilize is really helpful. Um, and then we also talk about like ways to nonchalantly allow students to kind of go to the wellness center, whether that be text line or a way to contact, an administrator to kind of nonchalantly pull you on and say like, hey, I really need help right now. I need to do so in a way that not every student will look at me or a teacher will be like, what's going on? Kind of impede on that and increase that stress even more. But I do think that the wellness center is a very, very good place for students to go to, especially when you're at school and there's not a lot of places you can go to get that help. Um, but overall, it's like having activities and then also improving on communication for those activities. Okay. Next is what motivates you to come to school. A lot of it is like students and like friends and having those communities within school that students be like, oh, I want to see my friends today. I'm going to go to school. And also having a positive person that really influences you to school. Like, hey, you need to get your work done and stuff like that. But also help students individually. And like having that safety. I know that school is a different environment from home. A lot of times home can be very stressful. So whether you're dealing with family life, personal issues or whatnot, having an alternative to school is really nice. Um, Also, like graduating, knowing that you have those resources at school to get you to where you want to go. And whether that be like personal or career. And then have, how might the school staff encourage students to attend school, participate, and be engaged in their learning? Um, Personally, I am representing alternative education. It's very nice when it's a lot more stylized to fit your individual needs. I see students who work more with visual aids, audio. There's so many different ways of learning and teaching the students, and I find that by kind of honing into those ways, students to learn better and actually adapt to the information. Um, but also positive school students can feel like, oh, if I ask a question that makes sense, like students aren't gonna necessarily like kind of talk out of it. And so having that space where a student can go and talk to a teacher have that specialized interaction, because when you see like 30 plus students, it can feel very overwhelming. The voice kind of gets shut. So busy work and things, the student is busy work, in some cases it is necessary. Um, but having projects and things that students actually want to feel they want to do that applies to their personal interests or things applicable outside of school. Um, and then just thought struggling. A lot of people have different, problems with certain classes, math, physics, Spanish, so on. So this is a very individualized question. But I do think that there's often like a lot of silence when you have so many classes with so many assignments. It kind of stacks and stacks and stacks. And I point out that like my teacher gives more assignments for the same class versus another teacher in the same subject. So having communication between English courses and Spanish courses and so on, where all of the teachers are on the same page to what kind of needs to be discussed and be taught. Um, that way, if a student goes from English 1 to English 10, there's a lot more streamlined kind of process. And then this is multiple different things, but it's, students can often be left behind. And for like classes such as math, that are kind of more built upon, if a student doesn't fully understand Unit 1, then you're Unit 9, and you need Unit 1's, topics to be handled on. You make a nurse list. So kind of having that, do we recognize and understand the material before we memorize? I think really helpful. And then, what is high school? Again, the social and kind of niche communities I find are it's really helpful for students. Having a positive approach from teachers, and friends, and so on. Students feel like they belong to a place in school and have an incentive to go. Oh, and that's it.
Thank you, Kate. So I appreciate your leadership in the process. And those things that were shared, those learnings in the posters, they were provided, the data was provided to each school site. They take that into consideration as they design programs and their school plans as well to keep this in alignment as much as possible. I wanted to bring those big themes to you. And also just want to reiterate that across the board teachers. And the posters often had people by name. This person made a difference for me, and it's just really what I wanted to see. So this is a summary of pages over. There were trusted adults on campus that are making a difference for our students every day, and it's really neat to see that. So the survey, we also received participation from the different groups who gathered process through the LCAP advisory committee as well. And so what the LCAP advisory committee does is we take the data from all the different sets, we then deep dive into some of the data like CTE, co-teaching, and to 2 hours, 2 hours on the survey of student forums, process the data, came to themes, and built priorities, and used to spend that process. So as we're thinking about is how do we want to prioritize the limited resources identified in the LCAP. And as we know, is a very small piece of everything that we do as a district. So the $6 million that we emphasized here is a small piece of the over $100 million that we have in our district budget. We do many things for all students, and we're asked to target specific resources to specific student groups, and also strategic in helping all students as much as we can through those parameters that we're given by the state. So quick and easy version of these next 8 slides, and we call this an infographic to show outcomes. We know not the multi-page document that is our plan, and so outcomes we show who is the community we're serving, what are our schools, what is this pilot concept. Again, we're looking at $6.1 million out of this very large budget of $131 million, and talks a little bit about our students, talks about student engagement, which we saw in previous slides, through the surveys. You can see some of the priorities, how we engage each of the groups in our community and across the board. Some of the themes coming out of all of that. So increasing dual opportunities was one of those overarching themes, and just right across the bottom there, increasing credit recovery for students that may need that, co-teaching, career technical education. That was interesting because it wasn't just we have great robust programs, but increasing the marketing and awareness of them, and then the wellness that Kate spoke about so well. And again, not just have the resources, but do we know how it is available? Are our students able to access it in a timely and meaningful way? Those are some highlights coming out of this year's process. So then take those priorities, the feedback, the data that we have, and it's not letting me click. So if I could get some assistance, there we go. Thank you. Again, match it to the goals. The focus will change during the course of our plan. The actions and services can be adjusted, and they can be increased or reduced based on findings that we have from our data review and the community input. And so again, the slide goals, what do we need? What are we doing in the psychology, career, life ready? But we're doing things like supporting counseling services, AP course sequences, middle college, tutoring supports, at Roseville High School, college and career visits, Roseville pathways, right? Those are things that are funded out of the first goal. And the second goal, improved academic performance, you see supports like the curriculum of teachers working in collaboration to really align their supports. We saw the students spoke to that quite a bit. Credit recovery, professional development, summer school, concurrent enrollment and credit recovery, and intervention supports. Goal 3 around equity and access opportunities in the co-taught classes. You'll see some duplication of this funding, overlap, college and career visits, and sports, and then for family and community liaisons, translation services, engagement, you'll see wellness centers, marketing, VCD programs, so everything we engage and activate our community with us in the schools kind of is falling into goal 4. So those are just intended at a glance to represent the plan. We brought them back to the academics, get it right, help us refine, help us clarify, made some suggestions on how to present it, but they really like this concept of an infographic or an at-a-glance approach to understanding. One of the things throughout the process was this acronyms list, because we know stakeholders, students, and parents, and community that don't speak this every day. We're always going back to what do we throw this acronym or these few letters. And so that is the nutshell of our LCAP plan. And the 3 of us are happy to answer any questions that you may have at this point.
Any questions from board members?
Yes.
Go ahead.
I have 2 questions for you, Kate. You mentioned the pervasive problem with vaping, which I have also heard from my own kids and their friends. Don't like to go to the bathroom. They take up stalls and there's long lines. So in that discussion, were there suggestions to solve the problem?
yes, very briefly. I don't know much specifics, but I do know there are like smoke detectors and ways in which like staff can be notified via like electronic devices. Of course, I don't know the specifics of how those would be implemented or what those specifically would entail, but I did know that there were, discussion about kind of general what those would entail.
But the kids were suggesting that.
Yes.
And wishing that we had some of that mechanism.
Yes.
Okay.
At the specific student site council meeting I was at, it was me and two other students, and one of them was a freshman who was talking very passionately about it because, of course, no one really likes to go in a bathroom that's full of smoke. So I feel like if that was kind of targeted and kind of fixed, students would, of course, like to go to the bathroom more. But of course, I don't know other alternatives, but I did know that was one of them.
Okay.
That was
Well, I
talked
appreciate
about.
hearing that the students wanted it.
Yes. Yes.
Okay. I'm just gonna look around, okay. And then to piggyback on that same slide, which you didn't touch on, but there was a line saying I think it was more accountability for bullying, vaping in the bathrooms, and other bad behavior. And this is not a right or wrong answer. So what was their perception? Because punishment often is confidential. But what were the students' perception of the discipline for those things? Like if someone's caught bullying, what do students think happens?
I guess I'm in a specific instance because don't go to school very often. I'm in a very different situation. But I do know that a lot of times when, a student sees someone bullying and so on, and then staff or whatever treat that situation, it's very dependable. Of course, things can get out of hand and blown out of proportion. But I also recognize that, students who do vape or students who do, resort to certain substances or whatnot, typically do so because there's a root cause, whether that be stress, whether that be family issues, whatnot. And so I feel like, that's when the wellness center really steps in and sees, okay, why are students doing this, as opposed to, okay, just stop. Really treating the root cause, I think, is a better way, as opposed to just saying, okay, don't do this and moving on. Because students, if they do feel stressed out, they need resources in order to kind of help that. And that's when I feel like, I know on one of the slides it was talking about like having the students kind of vote on a topic that the wellness center discusses for that week or that month. And so I feel like that really gives students the ability to say like, okay, I'm really struggling with vaping this month. Let's hear a presentation about this. Or I'm really struggling, or like my friends are talking about ways in which they want to hurt themselves. How do I approach that as their friend? And so the wellness center comes up with a presentation about that. And so I feel like having those varying presentations, as opposed to just like the same rinse and repeat ones, would allow students to feel like the incentive to actually pay attention and kind of move on using that information.
So in the discussion with the students, they were thinking the solutions were root caused, meaning the students wanted to forget.
That's my personal thing.
Okay,
I mean,
okay.
you can talk to a varying amount of students about it. I'm only the messenger in this instance.
Well,
And Kate wasn't in all of it, but you did, so you can actually discuss some of that as well.
Again, what's their perception? Because people get punished, but they just may not know.
And I think part of it is when they are being bullied for whether because they are LGBTQ plus or because they are a different ethnic background and bad words are being said to them, and it's not necessarily, the person being harmed does not necessarily feel like it's being appropriately dealt with. So they feel like, yes, we understand that there could be a restorative conference about it, but also when it's keeps happening over and over and over, it's like, when is enough?
So there is kind of a perception that the problems aren't being resolved because behaviors continue. Is that a fair statement?
Yes, for some of our student groups, yes.
Okay. I'm good.
Any other comments or questions?
Just have a quick comment. Thank you for including the acronyms. That's really helpful. Goal number 4, actions and services. Can you elaborate a little bit on the home visits? What does that look like?
So the home visits are done by a variety of people on campus. It could be for a variety of reasons. It could be for welcoming a new student to the campuses. So every summer, we usually have our learning support specialists and our counselors who go out and they want to welcome some of our students that are coming from our middle schools to our high schools, particularly the ones that, you know, they have been informed they may need a little bit of extra support and love. So they'll go out and welcome the students. We do try and focus in on our English learner students quite a bit because, again, they may be new to the country, they don't understand how high school works, but there's the welcoming home visit. Sometimes we may have to go do home visits for attendance and truancy reasons. And so, again, the counselor, the learning support specialist, you know, we may need to have the SRO come with, but it's a community of staff that will go in pairs to go visit different families for different reasons. So attendance is another.
And so the goal is to increase those types of visits, or?
We've been doing them for quite a while,
Okay.
but it's always to, yes, increase every year. Hopefully, you know, we go out of business. That's the ultimate goal, right? Is to not have to do them. But if we are doing them, then let's do that in support of students and parents and families.
Okay, thank you.
And some of the plan, the LCAP funds positions that do this. So not all of this is increase, it's just even to continue providing the services and support that we've been accustomed to. That kind of is referenced in here too. So these are not all increase, they're simply, these are what we're doing with the funds that we're allocating.
Just a quick comment / question. Thank you. I was able to go to these the year before last, the student ones, and it's really fun and interesting seeing. And the big thing 2 years ago was the food, the muffins. I need to try these muffins as well, Kate. But I was glad to see that the students seem like they did seem like there's an improvement, or they rated that a little bit higher. And I know we did the vending machines partly as a result of the one from 2 years ago. So piggybacking off of Marla's question, I guess, is, you know, how would we try to tackle that vaping issue? I hear about that as well. My son holds it all day long, you know, because they don't want to go in. So is that something that's, or what goal, I guess, is it built into? Or is it built into this? Or how would we help with that?
So it could absolutely be part of goal 4, which is safety and wellness. We didn't call out the themes, but in the plan itself, you'll see goal 4 represents safety, wellness, and activities as athletics and such as well in goal 4. So there could be an option in there. We also find that our resources are allocated and spread thin, so it's not an LCAP piece, but it's something that we plan to address, which is why we present it with the principals, we have safety and discipline committees, so we have a lot of ways to address it. So even if it's not written in the plan, because we didn't have extra money to throw at it from this resource, we could absolutely be addressing it through some of the other grants and safety programs that we have in place. So it won't be forgotten, and that's part of why we're speaking publicly. It helps us all be accountable to say, hey, let's revisit this.
Do we need to ask for an agenda item for that, or it just won't be forgotten?
Well, I think as we go through this process, it's up to us to make sure that we communicate our support for not only the plan as a whole, but what elements of the plan do we feel are sort of the priorities as we go forward. So this is not submit them tonight,
I understand.
but we
I
will.
understand.
The one slide I'd like to leave you
For selecting the students for the student participation, I missed how we selected those students to participate.
In the forum,
Yeah,
so we select 40 to 50 students, and roughly 20 or so are from student government, and the other 20 to 30 are representative of the LCAP populations of students. So we specifically include random samplings of English learners, students with disabilities, low income, foster youth. And that's something that Ms. Fisher does at her office is so randomly tells the school, please invite these students to make sure that we have a nice wide variety of students included in that.
okay.
All right, so kind of projections for next year, we've adjusted the timeline because next year is so critical in creating a 3-year plan. So I just wanted to preview that with you this evening. We started in September with the advisory committee, moved data discussions, goals discussions early, moved site meetings, student forums, in the fall, so that in the spring, design for the new 3-year plan, making any adjustments to those actions and services, and then we can come up with an intentional strategic plan that isn't necessarily status quo with what we have. But we need to make some important decisions for staffing and benefits built into the $6 million. And so we need to adjust timelines and make sure that we're adequate to be intentional and strategic with that. So I will leave that with you, and thank you for your time. Kate?
Oh,
Thank,
I just wanted to comment, as a student, these forums were like goldmine information for me. I was a representative for the past year, and it's like this is one of the only times that I've been able to get a whole group of students together and ask questions and kind of hear that discussion. And I'm very happy to see that they're taking place earlier this year, because that way the actual feedback can be implemented throughout the LCAP the following. Because forms this we're a bit later in the year, so there's not been as much implementation. Um, but yeah, I'm like super grateful that I was able to be a part of this and kind of have that discussion with students where they can openly voice whatever they wanted to and just address problems that I don't know about, because it's so critical on certain communities. And I'm not in school at the time because I am a study student, so seeing that conversation was really helpful, and I'm like super grateful.
I just want to express our thanks to you for the presentation tonight. I'm always impressed by how our student board members, in particular, but all of our students that address us, the way it was no different than a staff member. You could have easily been a staff member if nobody knew you're a student. So we really appreciate your work. You're leaving us, moving on to bigger things. It's always nice to come back and join us. Uh, we're move on. This is not an accident. So we're going to move on to our section, which is reports and communications. Board reports is first. I'll start because mine is brief. I haven't done much because I've mostly been out of town dealing with family issues. I did get an opportunity to spend some time with Lisa, and I can't remember the exact name of the group. Obviously, the California Council for Adult Education group, and it was great to get to talk with a bunch of people from all over the area about our adult ed programs. And thank you very much for inviting me. It was great to be there, and the pizza was pretty good too. And I think that's all I have because I really haven't been in town much lately. We'll start on this side.
All right. Well, I got to go to the Teacher of the Year award.
Yeah, I did that too.
Pete was at that too, and Ludmila. So that was really just exciting. And I didn't realize that our district was like in every single category. And that's not necessarily, it's not like they're going to each district and picking from each district. It's just for the whole county. But I feel like our district hit every single category with at least one award winner. And then we had a few that won for the county out there on the banner I saw. So that was a fun evening to be a part of. And then my last couple weeks were spent more with cabinet meetings. I got to meet with Mr. Becker and Miss Layton and Dr. Moore. And Mr. Landon talking about budget. How could I forget that? That was exciting. It was the best. So I appreciated all of their time and just really going over, areas of interest for me, which were, curriculum and books. And then my greatest area of interest or passion is, those struggling students. So I want to be more involved with that. And we're just getting ideas from them on, whether it's intervention or co-teaching or credit recovery. All of those are my favorite topics. So we got to kind of dive into some of that. And I appreciated hanging out with all you ladies and Joe. Yeah. That was about it.
Good evening. I'd like to also congratulate all of our district teachers and staff that received their awards this month. I also like to highlight a few visits that I made in the past 2 weeks. The first, I visited the Wood Creek Nature Center on a field trip with my third grade twins with their elementary school classes. The Wood Creek seniors who led the program demonstrated life preparedness, engaging in the community around them, and ready to step into the world. I was really impressed with the way they interacted with the third graders. They led by example, they engaged with the kids, they inspired them to learn about the world around them. And I applaud this school for offering such a high-quality academic opportunity to the students. Great work, Wood Creek teachers and staff. The second event was attending my first Antelope High School Merit Awards last night. Together with Principal Lindsay Cutts, we handed out 183 medals, 67 of which were double gold, 40 gold, 47 silver, and 29 bronze. And being a parent of a sophomore there myself, I know the hard work and countless hours that parents spend investing in their kids' lives. So to see and share the joy of these parents as their seniors reach the significant milestone was really rewarding. I was proud of our district and proud of the parents, proud of the students, proud of the school administration, staff, and teachers who all collectively contributed to the success of these young people. What a reward to see the end result. Congratulations. Thank you.
Well, I was going to say I was more of a parent the last few weeks, but I also got to meet with Joe and talk finance and Dr. Moore and Jen Layton and John. So I guess you count too. But I was able to attend the Granite Bay spring band and choir performance as a parent, and I was able to attend the lacrosse and the track and field end of year awards banquets. And today I was able to celebrate a friend's daughter who at Oakmont and two others who were signing their kind of continuation of athletic and academic achievement to go play their sport. Soccer, wrestling, and track and field were the sports. And so that was just a fun way to, again, just going to celebrate a friend. And I love how, I assume all of the schools are doing something like that. So congratulations to all of our student athletes who have been so successful to continue that into their college career. And then I look forward to Granite Bay and Oakmont's graduation. So congratulations to all of the 2023 graduates. So.
All right, moving on to our most important board member, Kate.
Ooh, this thing is always so, I have to remember now. So yeah, the school year is pretty much just wrapping up, and a lot of students are very much hurrying to get their final credits, and it's kind of funny to see on campus. But yeah, our school dance went really well. It was kind of like silent disco theme, so everyone kind of listened to their own music and dancing wherever. And then last Thursday, I got to have pizza with Mr. Fernandez, and after lunch, I got to go around with 2 pizza boxes and hand out pizza to students, and I felt like a saint for like 30 seconds that it lasted. Because after that, it was horrible. It's really beautiful to see the implementation of courses this year, education pathways, dual enrollment courses, which I've taken, which are hard, really nice. Yeah, our next month, Wednesday feels so weird, because I'm graduating and it feels like this year has gone by super fast. But I think so far, only Mrs. Hirota, which I don't think she's here, but she's going, and which I'm very grateful for. But yeah, I'm nervous, but I'm excited nonetheless. So thank you.
Thank you very much. Look forward to all these graduations coming up. Our next item are superintendent cabinet reports and any communications received.
First of all, no communications received, so we'll go ahead and eliminate that. Two quick things. One, we had a very successful unified sports day. This time it was track and field at Granite Bay, and it's just one of those things near and dear to my heart for our district. It's probably one of the few things that is just pure, authentic joy at a high school sporting event, where everybody's truly in it for all the right reasons. But to see the students, the smiles, the laughter, it is just pure joy out there. And it's one of the things we do really well. And it's one of the things I'm most proud of, being a Special Olympics Unified Champion School District, all of our schools involved. Craig and his team across our sites pulling it off. I think they do 4 or 5 different events each year. And it's just, it's something that I'm really proud of for our district and our teachers pulling off. Next, just again, and it'll probably be talked about a few times, but our Placer County Teacher of the Years, Placer County Teacher of the Year, yesterday we got to surprise Adriana Brooks from Roseville High School, so that was a lot of fun. And then our classified side, we had 2 at Wood Creek. For tech, we had Jason Marler, and for our skilled services, Andrew Ide. And so to be able to surprise them, one of them was actually coming down a ladder from the roof. And we're to have these doing such a great job and to be able to recognize them for their outstanding efforts is again, it's always a fun time of year to be able to do that. So that's it.
April, nothing. Brad, nothing. Joe, nothing. Those are the best reports. RSCA report, I don't think I saw Natalie here. So, oh, I skipped committees, but policy committee did not meet. Did finance committee meet? Nope. No wonder I skipped it. I'll pretend like I knew what I was doing. We have 4 members of the public who've submitted cards to speak. So we have first Karen Caldus, then Nicole Young, Lisa Mendenhall, and Lori Conley. Get the full 3 minutes today. This is only 4. Don't feel like you have to use them though.
Yeah, sure. 3 minutes. Hi, I'm Congress, and my daughter knows about it. I get a lot of inspiration from her, obviously, because she's very opinionated, but also she's been here for 4 years, gone through quite a bit. So she's going that's what she chose. Very excited for her. And very well prepared by Oakmont. So thank you. And obviously, there were other influences beyond high school. So I kind of one of the things that she wrote her graduation speech, and her AP Lit teacher makes it to that. She's dreading it. Of course, she says what she wrote was a bunch of stuff. So it's asked her about it. She said, "Well, this is just a stepping stone. This isn't the end, and it's not the beginning, but it's a stepping stone to the next phase of life." And she then also says thanks among what we've done and what we will yet to do for her. It's pause made me think, and I just want to say, right? We talked a lot about these things for 4 years, and that's what you've done. So when decisions and investments and programs and curriculum, they're not going to come back after you call you. They're going to call me. And so um, just with the care and consideration, they were your own kids during that time. But I want to focus today on the before. I'm grateful so much for good and COVID, the quarantine, all the dances, all the activities. So thank you for that. And at Oakmont's graduation, I hope that no one's in the comments because that would be a disservice to those students. And the board is for the past years, it's been really challenging, and you make hard decisions and administration as well. That were popular amongst all, not satisfied everyone, but you did the right thing, led example, and kind of set the stage for our entire area, so districts around us. And I just ask that you continue to do the right thing, the decisions you make for that situation, the right ones for that site. So just thank you for that. And I hope that you continue to be strong leaders for the next years. Keep the parents, stay involved, look at them, and so thank you.
Thank you. I know I called Nicole's name, but I don't see her. Oh, hiding. Come on. Nicole, followed by Lisa, followed by Lori.
Thank you, Barb. I also want to comment and just thank you. There was a consensus about a month ago, and sport can be want to hear the public and TV to be heard. No, like the phones and the phone. Appreciate that. So just also, I've been students in this district from 8 years old to students many years to come. And just thank you for making decisions and not doing this for the good of the children. That doesn't go unnoticed. I know this is a thankless job, but parents do this and the community does this. And that's why we keep you doing it. And also, totally different subject, but I've been for community schools. And that is so. And so for this board of this district sucks my work is in these schools, they will dive into what all of this entails. Thank you.
Thank you. Amanda Cole, followed by Lori.
Hi. I'm fellow scratchy throat, but I'm Lisa Mendenhall. My daughter's graduating next week, so it's a very exciting time. The third one going through Oakmont, my third and last. So we're very proud Viking family here. I want to thank the board for doing hard things the past 3 years. I'm going to echo a lot of what Karen said. But, I became involved 3 years ago, this time of year. You guys did hard things. You stood up and you stood out. Opening your hybrid in September 2020. You opened full time for our students in January 2021 when it's for lunches. But we went full time in August of 2021. Lifted masks in March of 2022. Paving the entire state to follow. So thank you for leading by example and standing up for our kids. Are you doing this? Megan, to have a normal senior year. This was the first full year of being normal entire high school career at Oakmont. So we're so grateful for that. I learned these past 3 years, Megan did too, both in Houston, and that's what high school should be about. The last 2 years, we got to use her voice. And thankfully, you are willing to listen, not only to the kids, but to us parents. Together. Part of this community, the most important, most important of her growth and the opportunity opportunities our students had to make the most of their senior year. It was packed with all things academic, athletic, and lots of fun. Homecoming, fun building, Friday nights, unified sports was a big piece for Megan. She got to participate in everyone. Absolutely loved it. I think it's great because it brings the entire district together, the kids from all the schools. So it's not just the Viking community. We go to all the sites and encourage any kids to get involved in it. They're still in the district because it really is when you bring the kids all together for a good cause. And you know, wrapping up with Find the Sun and senior ball. So I know there's some challenges in front of you. And I trust that you'll continue to act in the best interest of the students, to provide guidance and boundaries, and to continue to strive for excellence district-wide. So, thank you.
Lori? Nope. Pass. Best comments of the night.
Can I step up as well? Is that submit a card?
Yep, just come up, just state your name when you get to the mic and go ahead.
My name is Michelle. I'm a senior and also 2020 grad. And oh gosh, I haven't really worked the 2020 grads in time, worked in healthcare. There was no time for it. There was tears. That's what happened there because of her accomplishments. She had 3.5 years of amazing time. And they had that shock in her right class in a way. But current senior only had a year of truthful school. And so there's a lot of time that comes with that too. And I even at the college level, a lot of people doing graduation ceremonies have forgotten that these kids have gone through a lot. So do parents. And yes, we all have to face the work. We have to. My daughter just needs to sit for the first time on campus for graduation to watch her sister. When she hasn't been back on campus, she's been staying there. But she hasn't been back until there's going to be a lot of emotions behind. So, you know, 25 grand out about graduations. The ones I talked to, it's really hard. It was really hard to be 23. She's never been Shakespeare. She's gone 4 years. She's never been Shakespeare. She hasn't been about Shakespeare. That's part of her COVID experience. So there's losses. There's a lot of losses together. And we're going to celebrate and put all that stuff. She's not coming back to college, but she's going. And she'll make the best of it and we'll figure out the holes that she has. It's okay. It's part of this experience and we'll make it. So I'm very thankful for getting her back in school. She has cousins and babies. They have barely. So I am thankful for what we have. And I thank you very much. We love unified sports. And yeah, thank you. Appreciate it.
Anybody else? Okay. Well, now move on to the consent agenda. Anyone want to pull anything off the consent agenda? Seeing none, I'll ask for a motion on the consent agenda.
Motion to approve the consent agenda.
We have a motion from Heidi, second from,
I'll second.
second from Marla. Roll call vote, Marla? Yes. Yubela? Yes.
Yes.
So 4-0 absent. Oh, Kate,
Yes.
saved by Keaton. You're supposed to throw something at me, remember? Oh, no, nothing. All right. Our first public hearing is LCAP public hearing. And this is our opportunity for the public to provide feedback and written comments on our LCAP. We'll go ahead and open the public hearing. I don't have any cards. Is there anyone? Oh, come on. We have one person. Since you didn't put in a card, say your name for the record.
My name's wow. I just expected all the tiptoes the other way. Students high school, and I participate on the LCAP committee. I just have a request so the data that the students, parents, teachers are participating in to help facilitate some of these discussions and goals and baselines, that information be added to the district website and available to the public. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone wish to speak on the LCAP? Come on up. State your name for the record since we don't have a card.
Sure, for the record, Karen Combest, parent of a senior. I've been saying this probably for 3 years. I think there is more and more academic counselors to help our students. And I think if you look at the level of needs and supports that those counselors can provide with college and career plan, that there should be a wellness centers. They support like 10% of students right now, and there's no college room in them. And the counselors support 100% of those students, and I think they could use more personal programs, more resources, because I think that would help students. So thank you.
Anybody else for the public hearing? Come on up. Don't forget to state your name for the record.
We're trying to, I don't know, we're almost out of here.
The majority of lack of restorative justice. They know we're going to see this and stuff and they're going to get in trouble. There are no consequences. I don't know what's the discipline, but I think we need to definitely look at kids are not taking restorative justice very seriously. I think the adults, we want to try the way to have some consequences for actions, but they are not. And it's the mindset of the budget. They are not taking a true consequence to their actions. So.
Anybody else for the public hearing? With that, I'll take a motion to close public hearing.
Motion to close public hearing.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
All right. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay. Move on to our next item.
Yeah,
Oh.
one thing, just a point of clarification, so the public hearing is very helpful, thank you to all who spoke, and we'll be taking that into consideration. In addition, we have cards that Mrs. Fisher has, we have at the back table. This is legally required if anyone has additional questions that have not yet been addressed related to LCAP. If we provide tonight, we will see Mr. Becker will personally respond in writing as part of legislation. So just wanted to put that out there as an additional opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next item is 7.2 fiscal year 23-24 preliminary district budget public hearing. Joe.
Yes, thank you. So we're going to get the brief presentation I prepared pulled up here. Just as a comment about the budget, as you can see in this is our first draft of the public of the preliminary budget. Our budget's always a working document throughout the year. And so even if items are included in our adopted budget at the next board meeting, that doesn't mean we can't add things to the budget in the future. We'll have updates that'll come to the board. But this is our first public viewing of the budget, and so it's an opportunity for the public to also provide feedback. I'm not going to go over all the details. The state software version is 140 pages, so I'm going to go for that every single page now. But I'm going to go over just a small PowerPoint that kind of goes over some of the highlights. But feel free to let me know if you have any questions. One of the first items we look at is enrollment. See some of the past years as well as future years. Our district revenues, our staffing, and everything we do is based upon the number of students we have. So we get paid per student on attendance, and so we're always looking at that. That's why we hire a demographer each year to look at our projections, to make sure we have the appropriate staffing, to make sure our schools have the appropriate staffing. As you can see, over the last, we've had a lot of growth over the last number of years, and it kind of we've had some additional growth the last couple years. From 2021 to the current year, it's actually been a bit of a decline the last couple of years. But when you look at the numbers for the next 3 years, you see quite a bit of growth. And so it is particular with the rest of our community. And the benefit of this district is we're we have data from it's a little bit more challenging. You have to project how many kids are going to be born and how many are going to move in. But generally, when people move to a community, once they have school-age kids, they then typically stay in our community as high school students. So you could see some projections for some growth next year of about 200 students. And so that's our estimate right now, and then we'll finalize that once the school starts. But it grows a couple hundred more after that the next couple years. The next item, let's see. There we go, is the dollar amount we receive per student. So that's actually been in a positive direction as well. A number of years ago, back in 2011, 2012, after we had a pretty big recession, state of California ranked somewhere between 45th and 50th of the 50 states in funding per pupil. And so that was something our legislation has addressed over the last 10 years. You've heard us talk about the local control funding formula. That was a funding formula passed in 2014 with some targets about let's increase the amount of funding we provide per student. So we've made a lot of progress. I haven't seen the most recent. I've heard the estimate is we're roughly around 10th to 15th out of 50 states in the United States. So we've definitely seen a lot of growth in the last 10 years of providing funding per student. You can see in 23-24 estimates, $12,779. So that's assuming one kid goes to attendance every single day. So if they did, there would be one full AD and you get that dollar amount. There's a additional funding on top of that, but that's our core-based funding. We have in the LCAP additional funding for students who are unduplicated or those target groups. We have additional funding for special ed, lottery, a number of different areas, but that's our core-based funding that we look at each year. When you look at these next two pages, I won't go through them in detail, but these are the new positions and reclasses. We typically, year after year, sometimes have some changes here. Usually it's a little bit of an increase because we're a growing district. And for instance, in prior years, we had some pretty significant changes when we opened West Park. So we had to staff West Park, so we had a lot of changes. Here, we have some increases and decreases, but I'll highlight the total amount that impacts the general fund is $145,000 on the bottom. A lot of what we try to do with new positions is when we find different categorical programs, different grants, we're able to use those to fund new positions, maybe even if it's temporary or long-term, but that doesn't impact the general fund, at least when we have that grant, because we're able to pay for that position with new revenue source. And so that's what we try to do when we can. This is just a very overall summary. You can see that our general fund, our total budget is about $167 million in revenue. So it's a pretty big budget, and we've got 11,000 students to support with that $167 million. I have two little graphs here of where our money comes from and where it goes. The bulk of our money, like I said, the local control funding formula is two large pies. That's the state portion as well as the local portions. The way it works is the local control funding formula is a calculation that determines how much we get per student, and the state fills the gap that's not covered by property taxes. So that can, thank you, that can vary depending on how much local property taxes we get by district. But as you can see, that's about 80% of our funding comes from the local control funding formula. We also get money from federal and state and local resources like special ed, special grants, and you can see the percentages there. Now, where does our money go? And I've told a lot of people this over the years that we're a people business. We serve students, and the core way we serve students is with people. It's with teachers, it's with administrators, bus drivers, custodians. And so when you look at schools, you typically will see anywhere from 80 to 85% of their budget is in salary and benefits. And so when you add that 57% plus the 24, you get about 81% of our budget is in salary and benefits for our people that are used to serve our students. One of the things, and I've mentioned to a number of board members, that when budgets get tight, it makes it really difficult to make budget cuts without affecting people. And so that's why it's really important that we have good reserves and that we're really cautious and conservative when we develop our budgets. So that way, when we do have budget cuts in the future, we try to limit those the impacts to the students, and we try to limit it to the people as much as we possibly can, because it is really difficult to make cuts without impacting our salary and benefits. This is an update of our multi-year projection. One of the things I'll highlight is because of the way we've been funded the last couple of years and we've received a lot of one-time grants, it kind of skews the surplus and deficit for 2023 and 23-24. You see some pretty large increases and decreases. So what I try to tell people is to focus on that 24-25 year. That kind of gives you a better idea of how our revenues and expenditures align. And when you look at that year, we're projecting right now, and it's a conservative estimate of a deficit of $645,000. But then when you look at 25-26, we have a surplus of $8 million. So, and that's of the latest information that we had. And one of the things I'll highlight, and you can see the percentages on the bottom, is that we're still required by the state in our adopted budget to maintain less than 10% reserves. And as you look in 23-24, we're projecting right now 7.25% reserves for the current year. So we're able to meet the board and state minimum, which is required 3 and 3, so 6%, and have a little bit extra on top of that. So all that conversation I've had so far has been on the general fund, but that's not all. We have many other funds as well. And these are a listing of our other funds that we have. Adult education, our cafeteria is a completely separate fund. We separate money for deferred maintenance. We have our pension trust. And then this last slide is some of our facility funds. So we get a lot of money for developer fees, and we use that money to do facility projects across our campuses. Those who've been at all of our campuses have probably noticed the work on our stadium restroom snack bars that we're really excited about that are going to be open this fall. And so all of our campuses, that's being paid for, not out of the general fund, but out of our developer fee fund for those projects. Lastly, I wanted to go over some of the most recent updates from the governor's May revise that just came out a couple weeks ago. One of the highlights of it was that the governor has maintained fully funding the LCFF COLA, which is at 8.22%. Back in January, it was projected to be 8.13%. Now that's finalized in statute at 8.22. And both the governor, as well as hot off the press today, the Senate and Assembly both approved plans to fully fund the COLA. So we are 99% confident that we'll be able to receive that 8.22% COLA. That won't be finalized until the budget's finalized for the state at mid-June, around June 15th. Some of the negatives from the governor's May revise is he's proposing additional cuts to the arts, music, and instructional material discretionary block grant. He already proposed a cut in January. This is a further cut of an additional approximately $1 million to our district, as well as a new proposed cut to the Learning Recovery Emergency Block Grant. That could be up to $1.8 million to our district. Now, in that most recent update from the Senate and the Assembly, they both had some cuts to those programs, but it was significantly less than what the governor proposed. So they will go into negotiations over the next couple weeks and hammer out and come to a final budget in June. But I think this is a worst case scenario. It's likely to be a little less of a cut to those two programs. Particularly what the Learning Recovery Emergency Block Grant, if we do receive a cut of that magnitude, we've hired a number of staff to help with some of the learning losses that we've talked about over the next 4 or 5 years. So if we have that cut, we may have to shorten the time that we're able to have that additional staff working on some of these projects. So we've started engaging in potential plans, but we're going to wait and see what the final budget looks like in June. So our next steps, you saw the LCAP public hearing. We're going to have the LCAP adoption come June 8th. And then that's going to be part of our budget. It's just like April showed, that's just a piece of our total budget. And then we'll adopt our final budget in June. Then some of the other items in September, we'll go back in time to the current year that we're in, 22-23, and present our final unaudited actuals to the board. And then, like I said, the budget is still a working document. So in December is our plan for the first interim, our first budget update. So with that, that's the end of my presentation. I can answer any questions, and then it's also a chance for the public.
Thank you. Yes, this is a public hearing, so this is the opportunity for the public to provide any input into this budget. So we're going to go ahead and open the public hearing. Do we have anybody who would like to speak? I don't see any. I don't have any cards. I'll entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
I will move to close the public hearing.
And
I'll second.
we have a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
None opposed, so the public hearing is closed. Although this is typically not a time for board discussion, if there's any questions that you would believe would help the public understand the budget, you can ask those now. Otherwise, I'd ask you to ask your questions either directly to Joe before the next meeting or when we have the agendized discussion on the budget. Anything before we move on? Okay. Thank you. We're going to move into our action matters. 8.1 is Resolution 2306 for Roseville High School emergency stucco and dry rot repairs.
Yes, this was an item that just we became aware of just recently in regards to some repairs that were needed in the band room at Roseville High School. Due to the timing of this, we don't have the time to go out to public bid and get a contractor in order to get it fixed this summer. So we asked approval from the county, and they approved of us moving forward with an emergency resolution so we can address this issue this summer, so that starting of the school year, we can have all the repairs in time. So with that, staff reached out to Flynn Builders, who's willing to work on this project, and staff recommends adoption of this resolution authorizing emergency repairs and Flint Builders to work with completing this for us.
Do we have any questions, including from Kate, on this item? No? With that, I'll entertain a motion on this resolution.
To approve this,
What's that? Oh, microphone.
I move to approve.
All right, do
And
we
I'll
have a
second.
second?
I'll second.
What's that? Do I have you locked out, maybe? We have a second.
Yes.
B, yes.
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 4-0, 1 member absent. Next item, 8.2, Resolution 2307 for District Office New Building Lease. I'll start all over. Resolution number 2307 for District Office New Building Leaseback Contract Amendment. And then the next two items are related, so I'm gonna let you talk about all three, and then we'll hit the resolutions one by one.
Okay.
So we'll start off, go ahead and give us the overview of all three, and then we'll take it back.
Okay, sounds good. As the states, we're moving forward on the district office. We've finalized getting approval from DSA and have the final subcontractor bids that have come in. We're actually quite pleased with this. Our original estimate was around 65 to 30. And we got this a couple months ago, like low to mid-30s. So we started looking at some potential cost savings. We implemented the cost savings, and we're quite pleased with the final bids came in, and that we're back into that mid $25 million range. And so this is an amendment to the leaseback contract. We have contingency amounts put in there. We hope and believe that we'll be able to hopefully return contingency to the district, but this is for unforeseen changes that we have to address. So staff recommends the adoption of this resolution. The other two inspection services, 8.3 or 8.4, are both requirements for DSA. In order to build a project, we have to ensure that everything's working, and so we have to hire these inspection agencies to make sure that everything will be functioning correctly when we build it. So these are both related to the district office project.
We'll start with, does anyone have any questions for Joe on any of these three items? I don't have any cards from members of the public, so we'll start with asking for a motion on Resolution 2307.
I will move to approve 2307.
I'll second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Roll call vote. Marla?
Yes.
Ludmilla?
Yes.
Me? Yes?
Yes.
Kate? Yes. All right, 4-0, 1 member absent. Move right into 2308. Looking for a motion on that resolution.
Motion to approve resolution 2308.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Roll call vote. Marla? Ludmilla?
Yes.
Me, yes. Heidi?
Yes.
Kate?
Yes.
That passes as well, 4-0, 1 with 1 member absent. Moving on to 2309. Do we have a motion?
Motion to approve resolution 2309.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
All right, we'll call vote. Marla?
Yes.
Ludmilla?
Yes.
Me, yes. Heidi?
Yes.
Kate?
Yes.
4-0, one member absent. All right, we got through those quick. All right, we're gonna move on to item 9.1, College and Career Indicator Presentation, CCI.
This is definitely one of my favorite topics, and we were recently asked by board members to share this information and invite the board conversation, and so appreciate that opportunity. As the which is a different one, it's the CCI that he'll be pulling up in just a moment. You'll see the first slides are going to be similar. So, do we have the CCI presentation? Not this one. The first few slides are going to be pretty similar, and we'll go over them fairly quickly, just reminding us of the district vision and mission. If you have it, okay, I just want to make sure they had the correct one. So we know this is mission, vision, and mission, but then the third slide is one that we skipped over on the earlier presentation tonight because we do have this special presentation. But it's actually the content slide, which talks about it. Seven pathways our students can show that they are college and career ready upon graduation. And the state of California in these pathways continues to add more pathways to document our students ready for college and career. So again, and then this slide coming soon. There we go. Shows pathways, and I just wanted to pause to form test this. So one of these tests, the 11th test students take in the spring, started that's one counts, and this one test is going to show student scores of their college and career ready. But that's not the only way. They could score 3 exams, a 4 exams, take 2 college credit courses, which are courses, and get a C or better. They could earn a state skill credits and score arts 11th grade assessment. They could graduate including a CTE pathway plus which could be A through G, smart test, or course, or to graduate to be eligible to attend Cal State University of California plus of those AUC, so plus CTE, smart balance, one course, or one qualifying score. And we graduate but what excites us about this is that because there are pathways, we're not students all have to be cookie cutters, that they can follow paths that are more interest to them, to their schools beyond high school, and that is still same as for college and career choices upon graduating high school, and to go forth and conquer the world. We're giving them choices, and our counselors have embraced this and partnered with them. So as students build for plans for building further guidance, the intention is to design a plan that is designed to meet one or more of these pathways. And so our counselors will meet with students and families as part of the conversation, and we process more recently we can do a better job of marketing this and sharing this with our families and community. So with this basis, we want to little data, also preview where we're going as a state. And so this references 2 different quotes, passages from the governor's roadmap. And here's a roadmap for education that was geared towards community colleges. And it's something that our community colleges is really embracing. But the ambitious goal we set is all students graduate high school with at least 12 college credits already. Now, a couple of these quotes say specifically during the ways of originalized income and
we anticipate coming out in the next few months would be including AP and IB. The idea is to have college and we know sports or IB count towards that as well as enrollment. So that's what the state and the CDE is operationalizing. This that is better. And with these grants coming right now, budget is there will be millions of dollars that we could be eligible for state funding. And part of the expectation would be that we're joining this joint commitment to help prepare all of our students to graduate with these 12 college credits. So typical college class is 3. And so the new college transfer, she's embracing the concept of a dual enrollment class for every student in every grade level. She's done her college, state college. She was president and then chancellor of that current college district. There's a lot of things that can do that. So that's just something where the government, new college chancellor is wanting us to go. It was for us to be aware of. However, it is a tricky data point to pull. So I'm still working on affecting students being able to track and monitor regular at data. But what we found recently, and this is for the graduate from the last year, we have the full, we don't have the grades this semester, and that's why we're doing. But last year, 8 exam, you could see how grade levels took the exam, the percentage of that grade level of students, how many were on the class, how many took an IB percentage wise, and how many completed a course that capstone course for CTE. And we're just looking at percentage of how many students do in those grade levels. And then the next slide is how many of them were successful. So we saw how many took that AP test, but how many got that score of 3 or higher? The percentage of the whole class of the 10th grade total student population, 18% of that 10th grade population passed the AP class, the AP test. Or you can see the different grade levels. How many passed the class with a C or better? Or passed the IB exam? Or completed that CTE pathway successfully. So we're building this, but it's still something we aspire to grow. Yes.
I'm assuming that this could capture a student in more than one category if they qualify for more than one?
Correct. So very data numbers and some of our difficulty, and we're trying to get quantitative numbers as we look to gather that data moving forward. But yes, thank you. And so to help us see how are we doing this, how are we encouraging students preparing, I've asked senior principals to present their this presentation and share what it looks like in our campuses. And so on the back, principal Richter and Principal Cutts to take it away.
All right. Good evening, board. Thank you for having us. Just wanted to high school approach this idea of getting college career indicator. We're taking it from 2 guidance philosophies that we have. The first one, we all students have access to all courses, whatever goes. So if a student is trying to be uber competitive, want to go to Berkeley Engineering, they have access to any courses they need to make themselves as competitive as possible. Sometimes those students are looking to, I'm happy going to CSD, nothing wrong with that, go out class. And that's a great goal too, because high school enrollment might be a better fit. You have other students, I'm ready to do just A through G, and that's fine too. So we want to lots of the students taking any courses at any time. The second one is perseverance in college, and what great piece of data we found is just taking one AP course while in high school increases your perseverance in college by 33%. So it's that active taking one of those college level courses that we were really getting after. Big button? Big button, yeah. So just wanted to say, this is one thing that we're looking at for the AP English and Irish High School, and to give me this kind of break, This is all arrows all over the place, so it's a web. But what we're trying to illustrate here is that on the right column are CP courses, which are APD courses, and on the left-hand column, we're trying to our college rigor, AP rigor courses, okay? And so, say, you know what, I'm going to challenge this. There is no because it's on its way. We don't have it for this next year, but it is coming. But they can take English or bring the English class. And that I'm not the strongest friend, they can stay on if they want. They're still going to be graduate. They're still going to be APG ready. They're going to still have all of their options open to them. We also have the challenges left-hand column as well. So you don't see a lot of previous slides, but this is brand so and of those sequences or menus, kind of think of them like menus. You've got your placement, we have our dual enrollment, we have our college prep. So every grade, the student has what's going to fit my secondary goals. They can say, is it going to be courses? Is it going to be the AP courses? And they truly have those arrows wrapping around, but it's kind of a hard graphic to grab. So, you know what? This is my thing. I'm going to do something. You know, it's about dual econ one. I'm going to take that one next. And so students have a menu to choose from. Components that want to make sure that also in this, if you want to keep open access to our college prep, advanced placement courses, any student can access any course at that level. Just because it's college prep, students don't need levels of support. So opportunities coupled with support. And so we have tutoring after school, we have some test prep workshops that were key. One of the biggest byproducts the students really benefited from was learning how to navigate a system like enrolling in Sierra College. So learning those systems with those dual enrollment programs is incredibly beneficial. And the key component here is we really want to reach this. Started with the students' goals, and that's building out what courses would be the right courses for them to take. That we're trying to get in where we are there. That's we take our counseling opportunities. We have our counseling night, our enrollment night, and then our counselors also doing a lot of class presentations, working with students to build those 4-year activity plans. With cohort approach, which is a support approach, and what they're doing is students who are coming in from 8th grade, pushing them very hard to make sure they take one of their courses rigor. And then we also have activities such as our high school on the hill and our elective showcases where we're highlighting some of these opportunities that we have throughout our programs. So,
Hi, everybody. All right.
right.
It's not creepy at all. All right. So, students who are students. You here's start. This someone can take at least one AP or dual enrollment course. Of the 6 minutes, course, you could use one AP and it's done. So for juniors and for half seniors, take at least one dual enrollment or AP class. So we just finished our schedule for next year. So we're taking these classes next year. We see growth, right? With students taking at least one AP or class next year, and students in rigorous courses, which we think is great. Over 200 students will be taking at least one enrollment course. We actually think these numbers go up. We have one enrollment course that we just approved. So we have an art class now that we can earn college credit for. This last week we found out we could offer it. So more arts to make those numbers go up a little bit. So and it's really 3 things we find how to get students in sports. How to get 60% of our kids, of our juniors taking a college level course. These are amazing counselors at Antelope High School. As a Title I, we pay for an additional academic counselor for out of our Title I members, we have 6 counselors. So course selection days, they academic plan for students and their families every single day. So a freshman sits down with their family, with their counselor, and projects out the next 3 years in post high school. And then says, does this still make sense for who I am, and where I'm successful, and what my goal is? And every single time has that meeting with their family. So it's planning, right? It's planning. It's not just picking your classes for next year. So it's that academic identity, right? As students are developing their academic identity, who they are as a student, as they go to school. Develops their freshman years. So every person has a shared diagnosis, experience, and foundation. What is being successful in high school? What is being successful in Titan? And every student has that foundation of rigor in their classes. We have a really special staff at Antelope who believes in a very asset base. Say, what do you bring to us? Not what are you lacking? What they talked about at any time during the dual enrollment or AP course, and be successful. So that's what really important about who we are as Titans. So think about students. I want to talk about the students. These are very specialized, very pathways, but also rigorous classes. And then so freshmen will fail half the classes. Half the classes will be less than 1.6 GPA. What if in sophomore year, 75% of these grades and these are they just really felt sophomore year. Came back together to be developing academic identity as being a successful student. Two they were retaking classes they failed. And they started seeing like taking class. They got a B class. They didn't fail this week, having taken a college class, which I think is and through through 7 classes up there as we take 2 classes after has been 3 4 classes completed 2 also graduate diploma having some rigorous courses. Students pathways if you look up there. So that means 8 of the courses that they took at Antelope were CTE classes. So, 8, 10 classes, 4 had a chance graduating this week with us. And it's 4 half the classes were failed in freshman year. Almost every single class freshman year they failed. They started already, so they're already taking classes their sophomore year. Juniors failed third of their classes, still retaking classes, still trying to take advantage of every recovery opportunity. And it's student didn't fail a single class as a 3.0 going on classes as a senior. Just took them a little bit longer to get there. So I for students, like I said, every single one of them will graduate next Thursday. Every single one of them a college level course and they're successful in it. Opportunities that we're able to give them at Antelope. So we're really proud of that. That is what we have. People Nick has something to add, or if you have questions for us. Sure.
I have a few questions. So you're okay. I love your PAP9. I've already said it many times. I love what you're doing with the pathway. How many sections do you have for next year? Because it's going right in the fall.
Yes, it's going. We're going to have one section.
Okay.
There has been a bit of a tail after COVID. We noticed a lot of decline in a lot of our AP courses, so we're again trying to push that through some of the outreach we have. But we're having at least one. We also have AP Human Geography at the 9th grade level, and we'll have one section of 9th graders in there as well.
So really, as I think that through, it's the outreach to the 8th grade families.
Yes.
And educating them.
On those incoming parent nights and the admin nights, we have those opportunities. That's going to be our opportunity to really see if we can have students push that level of rigor.
Sure. And then I'm assuming pre-10 following year, you'll probably have more.
That's the hope, yeah. Because as students come in, have that ninth grade experience, saying, they're gonna start saying they're gonna be pushed, they're gonna have counselors talking to them saying, you have potential, why don't you give this a try?
And then I love your 4 people.
Really proud of them.
So the 2 that came in and struggled.
Yeah.
Ideas of why they struggled. What can we as a district do to help
Yeah.
support those kids that come in and struggle?
Yeah. One of these students I know pretty well, and it was things that for them were, I think, out of our control. It was a lot of family things. There was not just issues at home as far as like not a stable environment, moving around a lot, right? So it was things that were like, what we did is we said, this is a place that will always be here. Even if you're struggling, you're still going to support you. We're still going to believe you. And we knew that as soon as that student started having success, that it would continue, right? So what we did there is we just kept our hand out until they were ready to reach out and grab it, and we pulled them up. And that's for one of the students. That was for student number 4. I don't know the other student as well, right? So I know that some students, like I said, it's a lot of times it's things we can't control. Sometimes it is learning gaps. Sometimes it's motivation. Sometimes it's a fear of failure, and so students kind of sabotage themselves so they can say they did it on purpose rather than because they didn't know. But I know one student really well, and that's what it was. Is I think all we can do is just continue to be there.
So I guess I think of, as a district, we will always have kids that, okay, they're, head down, I'm going the AP route. We will always have those kids, and we can just encourage them along.
Get out of the way. Is what we do.
And then we have the group that probably needs a little nudging.
Yep.
And they'll be successful. And then there's again, like you mentioned, the academic identity.
Yeah.
That will have kids come in and they don't have that identity that I can do this, and for whatever reason. And I guess those are the kids that I think about. What can we do even before they get to us? Whether it's the feeder, like what's happening at the feeder schools, and how can we get heads up from our feeder districts to say you need special eyes on this group of kids. I don't know. I'm kind of thinking out loud, but those are the kids that how can we intervene earlier?
Yeah, we're really lucky. About 90% of the students from Antelope High School come from one middle school. And our counseling team goes to their counseling team and has that meeting before school starts. The thing that's funny is that a lot of kids grow up summer before they're 9. Yeah, there's some that they're like fine. So we do have a little bit of a heads up, I think, for some students. We're actually really going to focus on next year. Antelope is our freshman, and how do we get them going from 55 minutes in the class period, and if you don't pass it, you can't take it again. So we'll put a lot of time and energy into that next year. Yeah.
Do you know if other? Okay, you're unique because you have one
main feeder.
Main feeder. That's not the case for
not everybody.
For most. Do you have a comment? You look like you want to say something.
I was going to say the kind of approach that we're trying to take is, opportunity, support, and experience, right? So if we can get students early success, support them through that, a lot of times those experiences lead to greater success as they go through. A lot of times kids need to find their own path. What was interesting about those 4 kids on the Antelope, they're all meeting the CCI indicator. So they're all meeting that multiple pathways. So I think it's important to have those multiple pathways in that menu. And so I think that's the approach that we're taking. We're working with Buljan, we're working with our feeder schools, with our AVID programs and some of the things like that. But really trying to create those opportunities for success for students is the strategy that we're going after.
And then you mentioned the APIB DE. If a student takes just one perseverance, you said 33%, or some kind of percent.
It's somewhere in the 30%, yes.
Does CTE also fall under that, or do we have stats for that? So if someone just completes a CTE pathway, same level of success?
I don't know if I don't have that particular data. Maybe Dr. Moore does.
Yeah, we'd have to check the research on that. It's a different research set, so.
But no gut. Gut feeling. I would assume that if someone has that perseverance through, okay.
I think we all feel that's true.
Yeah.
We appreciate that, and I think that's why it's on the CCI indicator as well.
Yeah. Okay.
Kate?
I noticed on the slides for the percentage of total student enrollment versus the percentage of total students passing, that the AP classes, like the passing rates kind of drop, whereas the dual enrollment courses kind of don't really drop that much, or it's only like 1 or 2%. And as a dual enrollment student myself, and I have friends in AP classes, of course I've never taken one myself, but I know they're very, very hard and difficult, especially AP and IB. Whereas for my experience with dual enrollment, it's of course been challenging, but I've had the supports along the way. And I see my peers who do take AP and IB, and a lot of times they may not, their coursework may not correctly translate to what is on the actual AP test. So they may not be fully prepared for what they're even supposed to write about, or what essays are on it, and so on. And so I'm just wondering, what's the kind of communication or advertisement of dual enrollment classes? Because I know that dual enrollment classes are like college classes. So of course you're going to have more streamlining into college, like you said, that 33% or whatever percentage that is. But I just wanted to know the difference between AP and dual enrollment, I guess.
Yeah, no, you've noticed what we also noticed in the data, and it's quite dramatic. The success rate of dual enrollment really matches the enrollment. And that's across the board and across the courses. We've been tracking that as we've been growing our dual enrollment program exponentially. And we have some reasons that we know that contribute, and then more that we're investigating. But I look about outreach for dual enrollment, because this year we added a position of a dual enrollment CTE program specialist, project specialist, who helps specifically with outreach, especially for our unduplicated student populations, our students who may be marginalized or first generation going to college. And so she has been helping and partnering with each of the schools, including the 2 schools you have here, working with site staff, working with families. She speaks multiple languages herself and works with family outreach, has information nights, partners with Sierra College. Sierra College has an entire outreach team as well, who partners with us and has liaisons with each of our schools. And so we've been increasing that because of our own staff member who gets to focus her time. And so part of the success that we're seeing in the growth of the program is because of that intentional staff resource. She's grant funded outside of LCAP in a CTE grant, by the way. So it's no hit to the general fund, but we've been able to add some of those resources. And that's helped with awareness and students choosing to challenge themselves.
And I also know, because kind of for whole pathways thing, we've introduced this whole middle college thing. Staff have, I wouldn't say struggling, but have been a bit confused about a lot of the details between dual enrollment and classes and a lot of specifics. And we're kind of looking towards someone to provide that information. So students would be able to, take English 10 and then take English 1A the next year type thing. So I feel like, just speaking on behalf of staff, having that kind of a person to go to know those specifics about, okay, what does college and all those specifications look like, would be really helpful. And also to the students, because, if a student is wondering the transition between high school and college, that would be helpful, especially with Sierra.
All right, duly noted. We will work with your school administration on that.
Thank you. I have a question on slides 6 and 7, if we can go to those. First I guess we'll start on 7. What score do you use as passing on that AP scale?
AP is 3 or higher.
3 or higher, okay. So when we look at this compared to the previous screen, there's significant, if you can go to slide 6 for a second.
Can you go one slide back?
There we go. There's the drop off between the percent of students enrolled to the percent of students passing there's a stark difference between 12th grade, then 11th grade, and then 10th grade. Have we looked into sort of the drivers behind that?
We are actively doing that. And that's not even students enrolled. Those are students who took the test. So there were more most students that in the class, all chose to take the test, but it is dramatic, especially in 10th grade. About 58% of our students who took the test passed the test in AP, and it's something that we're definitely looking at.
So when we're looking at this is percentage of students who've taken it
This is
and passed,
Yeah, yes,
not percentage of students who took the class and passed the test.
correct.
So I think that would be important to look at both of those numbers because one informs the other.
Sure, and we provided the basic numbers that we typically look at AP. That was back in our January presentation. Enrollment this one shows rates within it's tricky to get apples and apples. If they're in the class, then falls out. So it is a tricky thing. Ms. Booker, were you wanting to say something?
And then would we explore with the students why some choose to take the class and not the test? Do we look at that at all to see if that's one of the drivers in this as well?
I don't have any data on that. Committee of our AP coordinators that study and review this data all year long, and so we can come back with some of that, but I don't know, do either our principals have information?
I would say as far as students who take an AP class and then don't take the test, the two biggest things that I hear is number one, if a student didn't feel prepared, right? Like, I'm not gonna pass it, I don't feel like I can. The other thing that we get a lot is it's expensive, right? If students are taking 5 AP classes, 5 AP tests is gonna be like over $500. And we scholarship out a lot of that at Antelope. We're able to pay for a lot of those tests, but a lot of times students will be like, okay, if I'm gonna take 2, which 2 do I have the best chance of passing? Because it is very expensive to take those tests. I don't know, Nick, if you hear different things.
Heidi, any questions?
I think they were all asked and answered.
Ludmilla?
Good.
I do just have one question. Excuse me. As far as partnering with colleges, how many are we only partnering with Sierra College?
Only 3 of us can have our mics on.
Oh, here,
Yeah,
we'll turn
someone
off.
Yeah, if you're not using it, turn off.
So the way the community colleges are structured are regionally, they're geographic. And so the way Ed Code and our guidance is we must partner with Sierra College. And if there's a program that they don't offer or they're not willing to partner, then we can go outside to other colleges or universities to partner with. And so we have been building our partnership with Sierra College, and I think 99% of the time they're saying, yes, we're ready, we would love to do that. There are a couple of rare ones that we just don't have a culinary program or something like that. Then we can go outside to other partnership opportunities, and we have faculty who are exploring that. But yes, our predominant partner geographically is Sierra College.
Okay. And then at last night's graduation, I did hear that quite a bit of students are going to Sierra College. So do we have a percentage of how many are actually going to be enrolled to go there directly from high school?
We wouldn't have that number right now of the graduating class, but we do get that data and participate with all of the data sharing so we get to see it. And we are the largest pipeline, which is great. And we leverage that in our partnership because they know they prioritize that as well. But I don't have a specific percentage right offhand.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I just have one last question. I'm curious about the most popular CTE programs on each campus. And if you could just speak to how the schools are, I know we've already talked about this, so this is a leading question, but speak to how the different schools decide what to add, teacher, student, career data, and you know what I mean.
I'll start and then I'll let you all jump in because the principals are very involved in all of this. But yes, when or design CTE paths, it needs to be based on need of employment and labor market in the area. And the goal is a living wage, not just the basic level of a career. So we're really looking at how can our students get that living wage, exceed, and have a full productive career in a pathway. But we also match it with student interest. So I'll give an example. West Park High School is going right to design CTE pathways. So they have labor market. One of the career pathways that could have been picked was logistics. There's just a lot of but our students are not interested in it. So we did not pursue them because it didn't match the interest that we were getting from the surveys. So there's so pursue what is on interest. And so what based on the question of the preview are what is most popular by size across the schools. And it's driven by student course requests and interest. There is a lot of staffing related components. If we don't have a teacher, we can only grow so much for facilities use as well. So again, ceramics, we have kilns, we have certain classrooms, and it can only be so big. And that's not a CTE example, but it's a facilities. With CTE, it often is culinary, where you have so many kitchens, where kids may love it, but we can only grow so big. And so with that, Roseville culinary is one of the top ones. West Park, both of the project lead the way pathways of biomed and engineering. At Wood Creek, all of them are very similar. We have full, really robust pathways. The slightly larger one is construction tech. And we have the project lead the way biomed, 2 to 2.5 teachers as it's growing and thriving. Brand business entrepreneurship has really been taking off lately with 2 to 3 full-time teachers. Oakmont Culinary, as well as their health academy. I visited them today as their seniors were doing exit interviews. And then at Pathways, we have a variety of CTE programs that are under development. So we're waiting to see how they take off, but they're all kind of getting started. We spoke to those recently. So that's kind of a broad view, but I'd love to see if our principals wanted to add anything to that.
You got it pretty good. Culinary by far is our most popular, and we're limited by our kitchen. We have one industrial kitchen, and so we can run about 12 sections, and that's it. We have room for, because we have 2 teachers. We rotate them in and out of the kitchen, so it's a madhouse all the time. But we're limited by the kitchen. We could build another kitchen. We could do more. And then probably our next most popular is it's a tie between Project Lead the Way and our actual broadcasting with our Eye of the Tiger. That's our second most popular that we have, the multimedia, the media pathway. Sorry, brain dead there for a minute.
And I would say for us, our engineering, students can't even enter it until they're sophomores, and we have waiting lists a mile long because of facilities. We have one engineering room, we have one engineering teacher, and so there's only so many sections we can offer. Yeah.
Any other questions, concerns, or comments? Okay, this is just an informational item, so no action to be taken. Thank you both very much. We're closing in on our end of the agenda. Any staff comments? Something you thought about during the meeting that's just dying to get out? No? All right. Pending agenda items, if you look under our Horizon report, you'll see we've got stuff all the way out to December in there. So our last item is adjournment. Do we have a motion to adjourn? No?
Oh. I move to adjourn.
All right, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, let's go home. Thanks, everyone.